deadly shooting at a Quick Trip gas station on Madison's east side last month. Now, those findings have been turned over to the Dane County District Attorney for review, who will decide whether charges should be filed. Back on February 27th, police say 39-year-old Justin Koppmeyer, who was a homicide suspect, was spotted near the gas station. When confronted, Koppmeyer and one police officer fired their weapons. A second officer also fired a taser. Koppmeyer was later found dead in the Quick Trip bathroom.
Flew through this Mount Pleasant Quick Trip parking lot Tuesday night just before 11.
Dispatch response responding to the Quick Trip. Sheriff did find casings in the parking lot.
Mount Pleasant police say a case of road rage spilled into the parking lot. One driver shooting the other driver, a 28-year-old Kenosha man in both legs. Police say he is in the hospital recovering.
People are crazy. That's why I like dogs.
Investigators found 15 shell casings scattered across the lot. A Burger King window and a car at a Toyota dealership across Highway 20 also hit. We caught up with drivers filling up Wednesday morning.
There's always road rage. I do about 300 to 500 miles a day. I see it all the time. It's people cutting each other off, swerving, just driving on shoulders, just all kinds of speeding all the time.
Truck drivers say they witness it daily on their cross-country routes.
All the time. All the time. Guys that get out of the truck and fight. I mean, yeah, it happens.
And it's everywhere?
It's everywhere. Yeah. People are nuts and they're always on their phones. Just go home. Everybody make it home. It's not worth dying shooting people over it.
In Mount Pleasant, Courtney Sisk, WISN 12 News.
Police are still looking for the suspected shooter. They describe the car they're looking for as a black Toyota SUV.
Deadly shooting at a Quick Trip gas station on Madison's east side last month. Now, those findings have been turned over to the Dane County District Attorney for review, who will decide whether charges should be filed. Back on February 27th, police say 39-year-old Justin Koppmeyer, who was a homicide suspect, was spotted near the gas station. When confronted, Koppmeyer and one police officer fired their weapons. A second officer also fired a taser. Koppmeyer was later found dead in the Quick Trip bathroom from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot.
At a Racine County Quick Trip last week, here's the suspect. Gage Cortez of Oak Creek was identified through surveillance video. Investigators say they were working to bring him into custody. That's when he turned himself in. The shooting happened last Tuesday. This was at the Quick Trip right off I-94 at Highway 20. Prosecutors say the suspect and the victim got into an argument in the parking lot, and that's when shots were fired.
Is caught on camera. Police say there was another double shooting this week. This one happened early this morning, killing a 46-year-old and injuring another person. Durante Matthews is here with the video and what neighbors are saying about it tonight.
Yeah, Sam, we got that video today showing the entire shooting. It happened on 14th and Atkinson, right next to a bar. Neighbors tell me both on and off camera that shootings are all too common in that neighborhood, and they're really just tired of them.
We have a 39-year-old male, 2 GSWs, who was abdomen.
An early morning shootout takes the life of one person and wounds another.
Is bleeding controlled?
Fox 6 obtained surveillance video showing the shooting around 1:30 Saturday. You can see a crowd right next to a bar on 14th and Atkinson. Neighbors awake at that time describe what happened.
I heard a lot of commotion, a lot of arguing.
Lawrence Seabury says when the argument escalated, he went inside and went to bed.
Next thing I just heard some gunfire.
He says the sound of shots woke him out of his sleep.
It was like 13, 14 shots, and they was like back to back.
Video shows multiple shooters fire shots behind a tree, around a vehicle, and running across the street. Surveillance appears to show at least 2 men were hit. Police say a 46-year-old died at the scene and a 39-year-old was injured. Neighbors say this is a sad reality on their street.
Always gunshots going on around here, but not like the way it was last night.
Seabury says shootings are common, but homicides are something else. He says he wants more patrolling in the area to help cut down on the crime. People who didn't want to go on camera say they're not sure on solutions, but say something needs to change.
We just have to keep Milwaukee up in prayer.
And this morning, police told us they didn't know who they were looking for as far as suspects. We did ask for an update, but have not heard back. Sam?
No matter what team you're rooting for, you'll always win at Rosen. 2016 Sentra, $5.10 a day. 2016 Ultima or 2016 Rogue, your choice, $6.41 a day. Both 36-month leases.
Rosen.
Rosen. Save a fistful of dollars.
Scattered across Deneen Park on the city's northwest side.
A gang shooting killed a 17-year-old girl in a violent confrontation last July. That murder case still unsolved, and a mother pushing for answers. And we now know more than 100 shots were fired from 19 different guns. Investigative reporter James Stratton giving us a rare inside look at.
I was always there behind her every day, trying to make sure this didn't happen to her.
Her daughter, Amira Wallace, shot and killed in a mass shooting at Deneen Park near 67th and Vienna on Milwaukee's northwest side.
Forever 17.
The forever 17-year-old, her mom says, was trying to get back on track in school and recently got a job at Pick and Save. She was picked up by two people she knew to head to a teen meetup. 12 News Investigates obtained search warrants showing as many as 200 kids and teens at Deneen Park late last July. Records show the teens at the park fired 114 shots from 19 different guns. The gunfire struck 9 teens total, killing Wallace.
This was a gun battle between two feuding juvenile gangs?
That's correct.
Search warrants say some teens showed up to the park with ski masks, carrying rifles and pistols with drum magazines, carrying them openly.
Weapons of war. I mean, that's what they are, weapons of war.
Court records show a team of Milwaukee County Sheriff's deputies are investigating the mass shooting. MCSO declined an interview. So far, prosecutors haven't charged anyone for the shooting, but 3 people have been arrested on other gun charges during the investigation. The Milwaukee Police Department is helping solve the crime.
Let me line something up here real quick.
Police bring each one of the 114 casings here downtown to photograph and study them. They're then put into the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, or NIBIN, a federal network run by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Each gun has a specific print. Scanning the backside of the casing allows police to understand the exact gun the bullet came from, connecting guns to different shootings.
Let's slide this in here. Almost identical. Same gun.
A search warrant states 10 of the guns fired at Deneen Park matched other shootings across Milwaukee. Some records show are connected to 5 and 6 other shootings each.
Is that common?
Over the past few years, it's become more common.
Police use the database to link guns to different crimes and eventually to shooters.
Every gun that's taken off the street, every violent offender that is doing prison time is one more day that they're not out committing crime.
Even after police match the gun, they need to figure out who pulled the trigger. In this case, they matched cell phone device data to connect those devices to other shootings. 15 cell phones matched Deneen Park and other shootings connected by matching the gunfire. Records show 2 cell phones and 1 gun matched this shooting at 6th and MLK just 2 weeks prior. Here, someone shot 3 teens and 1 adult. Bullets pierced the window of a local barber shop.
There's a mark here, here, and here.
Milwaukee police call NIBIN a piece of the puzzle in solving gun crimes. Linking guns to other shootings, but also working to find the shooters at Deneen Park.
Her whole life was stolen from her.
And that killer's still walking.
Yes, sir.
Including the shooter who killed Amira Wallace and took a piece of her mother's soul along with them.
She didn't deserve to have this tragic ending because she didn't do nothing to no one. So I do want to reiterate that Amira did not deserve what happened to her.
Powerful words there from a grieving mother. James, those 2 scanning machines run 24/7.
And police say they're seeing more shots fired per shooting because of the rise of automatic gunfire in our city. Seeing dozens, if not more than 100 casings, like at Deneen Park, at a scene, they say slows down the process. As for the investigation, the sheriff's office says they are looking for suspects and do have active warrants for people.
All right, and that investigation continues. James Stratton with an inside look at how police are solving gun.
Breaking news in the deadly shooting at that 4th of July parade in Highland Park, Illinois. Just a short time ago, prosecutors announced the suspect is now charged with 7 counts of murder as the death toll continues to grow. At least 7 people killed, more than 30 wounded. Tonight, authorities are revealing more about the alleged gunman and the plot that they say he'd been working on for weeks. They released this image saying 21-year-old Robert Cremo escaped through the chaos by wearing a wig and dressing in women's clothing, covering his tattoos and blending into the crowd. Cremo was arrested in his mother's car, handcuffed without incident. Authorities reveal how they tracked him down and what they say they found inside that vehicle. The gunman, armed with a high-powered rifle, firing more than 70 rounds into the crowd from the top of a building. Authorities say they recovered an AR-15-style weapon at the scene. Newly obtained surveillance shows men, women, and children rushing into a store all at once to escape the gunfire. Today, deputies searched the home where he lived with his uncle, where they say they found more handguns inside the house. And late today, the names of the victims were made public, those killed while celebrating America's independence. Still no word on a possible motive. Questions are now being raised after the sheriff said all of the weapons were purchased legally. And new images of the shooting are emerging, and a warning, some of them are disturbing. ABC's Alex Perez is in Highland Park and leads us off.
Tonight, murder charges for the alleged gunman in Highland Park, Illinois. Police say the man who unloaded 70 rounds onto an Independence Day crowd, killing 7 and injuring more than 30, planned his attack for weeks and carried out the rampage disguised as a woman.
He brought a high-powered rifle to this parade. He accessed the roof of a business via a fire escape ladder and began opening fire on the innocent Independence Day celebration goers.
Sources telling ABC News investigators are poring over social media posts believed to be from 21-year-old Robert Cremo dating back from over a year ago. One video showing part of the parade route. Minutes after that parade in Highland Park, Illinois, just after 10 a.m. Monday, the cheers turning to screams. Many at first mistaking the gunfire for fireworks. Families running to find safety anywhere they could. Gabriela Martinez says she saw the gunman on the roof.
I was trying to see where it was coming from, and then I looked up at the Ross Cosmetic building, and he was shooting from there.
Mom Abby Brozio was grazed by a bullet her father-in-law hit in the leg.
My first instinct was, did it hit my child?
Brozio running with other families into her husband's store. Her mother-in-law seen here trying to protect her grandchild.
My mother-in-law was crawling into the store over my child, and that was just heart-wrenching to see.
Police say the suspect dressed in disguise so he could blend in with the crowd.
During the attack, Cremo was dressed in women's clothing, and investigators do believe he did this to conceal his facial tattoos and his identity and help him during the escape with the other people who were fleeing the chaos.
New images show the dead covered on the sidewalk while several people tried to save the wounded. Anesthesiologist Dr. Wendy Binstock Rush doing CPR on an older man who didn't make it.
It was just, unfortunately, it was an elderly gentleman. He had lost way too much blood, and there was no way to bring him back.
5 of the victims died at the scene, 2 at the hospital. More than 30 people were injured, most by gunfire. For hours, this community sheltering in place while teams searched building by building. The rifle left behind leading the ATF directly to Robert Cremo. Police quickly blasting out an alert with a photo of the suspect, the car, and the plate number. About 8 hours after the carnage, police capturing their suspect after a tipster spotted the car.
An alert member of the community saw Cremo's vehicle traveling southbound on Route 41, dialed 911.
Officers surrounding the vehicle, taking him into custody after a brief pursuit. Police discovering another rifle in the car. They say all 5 guns he had were legally purchased. Tonight, this community is shattered. Illinois' governor outraged.
Mass shootings have become our weekly, yes, weekly, American tradition. There are going to be people who say that today is not the day, that now is not the time to talk about guns. I'm telling you, there is no better day and no better time than right here and right now.
The governor issuing a disaster proclamation tonight. Alex joins us now from the scene. And Alex, we're learning about charges tonight. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Lindsay, those late-breaking details, the prosecutor announcing that Robert Crimo has been charged with 7 counts of first-degree murder and that there could be more charges to come. Now, Crimo's family, through their attorney, did release a statement. It says, in part, this is a terrible tragedy. Our hearts, thoughts, and prayers go out to everybody. Now, authorities here have told their law enforcement partners that Crimo is talking and that he has indicated through statements that he takes responsibility for this attack. Lindsay?
Alex.
Coke and guns.
Investigators searched a West Dallas house and they found drug presses and more guns. Bill Miston explains it started with a traffic stop.
A traffic stop. A brick of fentanyl under the hood led to cops raiding 2 properties the next day, both owned by the same man, 41-year-old Timothy B. Federal prosecutors charged B on Friday with drug and gun charges. Last Thursday night, deputies pulled over an SUV for excessive window tint on 43 northbound in downtown Milwaukee. Filings say B was behind the wheel, a woman in the passenger seat, and a brick of drugs tested positive for fentanyl was found under the hood. The car registered to be at this building.
Timothy B. 3941 North Teutonia.
He appeared before a licenses committee last spring for the bar he ran in the building he owns near 21st and Teutonia. It now says I Care Child Care. The drug gang task force searched the building on Friday. Inside, police found more than 11 pounds of fentanyl, more than 2 pounds of coke, and 3 guns, including one with a switch. And in his West Dallas home near 76th and Beloit, filings say investigators found 2 drug presses, a money counter, and nearly a dozen firearms. Those in the home declined to comment. Back at B's building on Teutonia, it's unclear if a daycare ever operated out of the location.
Multiple neighbors Fox 6 spoke with say the signage changed over the last several months, but had never seen any children coming or going.
I Care Child Care is registered to 42-year-old Crystal Robinson. Arrest records show Robinson was in the car with B when they were both arrested. She was released from custody and is not charged in connection to the case. State records show Robinson runs I Care Child Care out of her home.
Ma'am, can you please explain?
I tried talking to her on the phone. She hung up on me, so I called back.
Hi, is this Miss Robinson?
She said it wasn't her. So I called again.
Hi, you reached Crystal, and as you can see, I'm not in right now. If you are calling in regards to I Care Child Care, please leave.
Enchiladas. 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 Enchiladas.
Endless enchiladas, just $9.99. Beef, chicken, or cheese with rice, beans, and endless chips and salsa at On the Border. You know you want it.
Developing this morning, one man is in custody after a home invasion and shooting in Racine.
Police say this happened near Hamilton and Marquette Street, just a few blocks northwest of downtown Racine.
And that is exactly where we find our Zoe Chapala, who's been joining us there from all morning long. Zoe, what do we know so far?
Well, neighbors tell us off camera this morning that this entire block right here at Marquette and Hamilton Streets was all blocked off due to this tactical situation. Now take a look at this video. This is what they were seeing last night. Tactical units, dozens of police officers, all responding to a call reporting that 42-year-old man was inside a home with a gun. They say that he unlawfully entered the home full of children and several adults and started firing shots around 6 last night. Now, at some point, we know that an officer fired their weapon at the suspect. The man was hurt, but he's going to be okay. He was taken into custody in connection to the incident. Meanwhile, the Kenosha-Racine area investigative team says the officer is now on administrative leave. That is standard as they investigate. Now, thankfully, no one else was hurt. Now, this is a developing story. Once we learn more information about what happened, who was involved, we'll be sure to update you on the air and online. In Racine, Zoe Chapala, Fox 6 News.
Developing news this morning, police are looking for suspects after a man was shot and killed on Milwaukee's south side. Police were called to 7th and Mitchell for this shooting around 4 yesterday afternoon. We're told that a 52-year-old man died after getting shot inside of his car, and so far, no arrests have been made.
Developing this morning, a Milwaukee public school teacher is now criminally charged after students say she has been harassing them for months. 40-year-old Erica Alamang Renke is charged with 4 counts of sexual misconduct by school staff or volunteer. Police say students reported inappropriate conduct going back to the beginning of the school year. Students reported that she would send them explicit text messages, buy them gifts, pressure them to share their location with on their phones, and offered to perform sexual acts.
It's very concerning because we want to know, we want our children to be safe no matter where they are, especially in school.
New tonight, a noise complaint led to the shooting death of a Milwaukee dentist. His neighbor is now charged with his homicide. Fox 6's Ashley Sears is in the newsroom and explains investigators say this was all over loud music.
Yeah, that's right, Kim. This all happened on Saturday at an apartment building in Brown Deer. Police say the victim confronted the woman upstairs and she shot him. Brown Deer Road, the Park Plaza apartments are tucked away in a quiet setting. Saturday night, investigators say the noise inside one unit led to a shooting. A criminal complaint explains just after 11, the man living on the first floor confronted Kiana McGowan about her loud music in the apartment above him. She told police she was doing her hair and trying on different clothes when she heard loud, aggressive banging at her door and told her neighbor she would turn the music down. She closed the door and told investigators she heard the man kicking as if he was going to break in, so she got her gun and fired one shot at the man. 41-year-old Akintunde Bowden suffered a gunshot wound to his abdomen and died on the scene. He's been identified as an esteemed dentist. Milwaukee Health Services posted a tribute to Dr. Bowden on social media, saying he worked there for more than a decade and recently became the dental director. In a news release, they say he was fiercely committed to eliminating health disparities and improving outcomes for those most in need, and he will be deeply missed, but his legacy of service, compassion, and excellence will continue to guide their work. Bowden's fiance told police he had been watching basketball at home and didn't have any previous confrontations with the upstairs neighbor. McGowan is in the Milwaukee County Jail tonight being held on a $15,000 bond. Live in the newsroom, Ashley Sears, Fox 6.
Tonight, in an ongoing investigation, a Milwaukee woman now faces charges in a suspicious fatal fire earlier this month, but she has not been charged in connection to the death. Bria Jones is in the newsroom for us with what prosecutors say led to the tragedy.
Ted, investigators say 28-year-old Rashamba Claybrooks started a fire in her boyfriend's apartment. The fire spread throughout the building and forced evacuations. Hours later, a man was found unconscious and he later died. I talked to his sister tonight.
Help us understand. Give us a sense of peace so that we can begin to heal. What happened to my brother?
Deborah Nash wants answers and, more than anything, for justice to be served for her brother, 71-year-old Sam Nash.
He was everything. Sam was a former military veteran. So his age was 71, but it was almost like he was aging backwards because every day he was up.
Investigators say Nash died on April 8th following an apartment fire at this now boarded up building on 30th and Capitol. Prosecutors say 28-year-old Rashamba Claybrooks started the fire in her boyfriend's apartment after they spent the day arguing, and he asked her to move out.
I hope that my brother's picture is constantly in her mind when she closes her eyes, when she thinks, when she talks. He should not have been a victim of your maliciousness.
Claybrooks is now facing multiple charges, including arson and bail jumping domestic abuse assessments.
Nothing says anything about my brother's death. I lost my brother. None of those charges say that. Look, my brother's gone.
So what charge would you like to see added?
Homicide, murder.
Nash says she also wants accountability from Milwaukee Fire.
And walked over to a fireman and said, my brother is up there. I was just on the phone with him and now I'm not getting an answer. He said maybe this building is listed as all clear.
She says her nephew found Nash, his father, unconscious almost 2 hours later.
How did our brother, out of all the tenants being rescued from this building, how did my brother get missed?
We did reach out to Milwaukee Fire for comment, but we have yet to hear back. As for Clay Brooks, prosecutors say this was not her first time damaging the property. We also reached out to the district attorney's office about additional charges in the case. We were told the investigation is ongoing. Mary?
Monte Kirk. His case now in adult court. 12 News' Emily Pofall spoke to the victim, who remembers her attacker smiling during the assault.
He's not going to take my sense of self. He's not going to take who I am.
Charlotte Nozar sharing her story with 12 News in January, demanding a teenager charged with sexually assaulting her be tried as an adult.
Where's the justice in this? You know, make it make sense. Why has he been slapped on the wrist so many times?
Now, after months of waiting, new court documents show Tremonte Kirk charged in adult court with 5 felonies, including second-degree sexual assault. He was 16 years old on the night of December 18th. Caught on camera the moment prosecutors say he spotted Nozar walking near 24th in Wisconsin with a noticeable limp from a recent surgery. Prosecutors say Kirk followed Nozar onto her apartment elevator, where he stomped on her injured leg, raped and strangled her, and threatened her life.
Shut up and let me do what I'm going to do and you'll make it out alive. Don't you know this is Milwaukee? I'll kill you.
Prosecutors say Kirk is shown here running from the scene. Prosecutors also say he was wearing an ankle monitor during the assault, already under surveillance because of a previous sexual assault he committed in 2021 when he was just 13. Court documents say Nozar told police during a photo lineup, quote, "It would have been easier to identify the defendant if he was smiling in the photos because he had been smiling the whole time he sexually assaulted her."
It's too late for anybody to save me, but I can help prevent this from happening to the next person. And I don't want anybody to have to go through this.
And Emily joins us from 24th in Wisconsin tonight. Emily, Nozar says she's had serious complications from the attack.
Right, she says she has significant nerve damage in her leg from getting stomped on and needs at least 2 more surgeries. She told me over the phone the battle has just begun.
And Kirk is scheduled to make his first appearance in adult court tomorrow. Emily Pofall, live for us tonight.
19-year-old Tremonte Kirk is charged with second-degree sexual assault and strangulation. Prosecutors say he raped a 54-year-old woman in an elevator at her apartment.
This is any woman's worst nightmare.
Investigators say Kirk was caught on surveillance video, watching the woman go into a store, then following her out.
This woman is disabled because of a recent surgery, and she was just going down the block to buy some groceries.
Prosecutors say Kirk told the woman he forgot his keys, so she let him in. Then in the elevator, prosecutors say he sexually assaulted her and kept pressing the elevator buttons to keep it from stopping. Investigators say the elevator is old and doesn't automatically open the doors when called. Prosecutors say at one point he threatened to kill the woman. When she was shown a photo array, she told investigators it would have been easier to identify him if he were smiling, quote, because he had been smiling the whole time he sexually assaulted her.
This is the 4th time he's been accused of sexually assaulting someone. This is a vulnerable victim.
Kirk was on GPS monitoring when prosecutors say the sexual assault happened. In 2020, in juvenile court, Kirk was found guilty of 2 counts of 4th-degree sexual assault involving 2 different people. Then in 2021, in juvenile court, found guilty of 1st-degree sexual assault of an elderly person.
Kirk's bond was set at $300,000. He'll be back in court April 30th. Reporting live in Milwaukee, Christina Van Zelst, Fox 6 News.
All right, Christina, thank you very much for that. As we start to look ahead to the weekend, because Green Bay is going to be an active place, but a lot happening here this weekend, too.
That's right. The Bucks, you know, people down at Pfizer have watched that. The 2 games tonight and just celebrating spring.
That's right. Yeah, we had the sunshine today, but boy,
Beautiful.
did Lake Michigan have a say, right? Let me show you what's going on tonight. We have a beautiful view as we're looking.
Do not worry, sir. I also fix cars.
Seen it, covered it. At Farmers Insurance, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
An editorial responding to a David Horsey piece in the Los Angeles Times.
It was provoked by his disparaging comments about Fox News anchors, including labeling us blonde Barbie dolls. I took issue with that, not surprisingly, and felt the need to respond. Here's part of what I wrote. Mr. Horsey has no idea what it is like to be part of this network. We work hard. We get our stories right. And we are proud of what we do and the success that we've achieved. We're experienced journalists and reporters. Most of us have been at it a long time. Between us, we've worked at all the networks and most of the prominent newspapers and publications. We're proud that our lineup, as he put it, is stocked, as he put it, with not blonde Barbie dolls, but some of the sharpest, brightest women in the business. Our success is not about hair color or skirts. It is about elbow grease, dedication, and sacrificing time with our families and friends. We're fine with that. It goes with the territory. We live in scary times, though, as evidenced by Mr. Horsey's column, a society where divisiveness leads to crassness that seems to feel it is justified by political bent. Is that really who we want to be? Is that what our nation was built on? Is there a level of respect we could consider the starting point for debate or judgment? Let's hope so. And let's hope with all that's going on in this country with regard to sexism and harassment that we can move to that place of mutual respect.
We are now awaiting reaction from President Biden to a landmark decision from the Supreme Court. Justices ruling 6-3 that colleges and universities must stop considering race in admissions, ending the decades-old affirmative action policy. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Emily Campagno here with my co-host, Kaylee McEnany, and also joining us today, Martha McCallum, anchor and executive editor of The Story, Culture Plus co-founder and CEO Lily Gil Valletta, and Veterans on Duty chairman and former Army intelligence captain Jeremy Hunt. We begin with Fox News Sunday anchor and chief legal correspondent Shannon Bream. Shannon, good morning on this explosive day. Thank you so much for covering this all morning for us.
Emily, glad to, and glad that you always have attorneys there, including you on the panel to help break these things down as well. This is a landmark decision after many, many bites at this apple about what higher education can and can't do with the use of race. The court said essentially today it cannot be a factor in determining whether or not somebody gets a slot in a college. This involved Harvard and UNC, public and private university, but both take public money. And essentially, let me read you a little bit of what the Chief Justice said, writing for the majority. He said here, the student must be treated on his or her experience as an individual, not on the basis of race. Many universities have for too long done just the opposite, and in doing so, they have concluded wrongly that the touchstone of an individual's identity is not challenges bested, skills built, or lessons learned, but the color of their skin. Our constitutional history does not tolerate that choice. He read from the bench, as did Justice Thomas with his concurrence, and the dissent as well by Justice Sotomayor. One of the dissents was read. Here's a part of what she wrote. The devastating impact of this decision cannot be overstated. The majority's vision of race neutrality will entrench racial segregation in higher education because racial inequality will persist so long as it is ignored. Now, the court was careful to say, listen, if people want to write in their personal essays about the experiences they've had with social or racial injustices, their background, how they got there, where they came from, none of that is barred, and no university is barred from considering that. They can't use those essays in a way to get around this decision, but they can certainly be part of the consideration process. Already reaction here on the Hill right across the street. At least one member of Congress, Hank Johnson, a Democrat, now saying this demands that they expand the Supreme Court. It was a terrible decision. He's going to offer up and push legislation to do just that. Emily.
Shannon, thank you so much. Bringing it back to the couch now. So, Kaylee, you contrast, as Shannon just read, the words of Sotomayor, which she essentially says it's the devastating impact which cannot be overstated. She says the court is not listening to the face of America crying for equality, yet Asian American entry in Harvard was capped at 20%. When you removed that cap, their own cap, all of a sudden numbers flourished. And interestingly, you combine that with the 82% of their population, of their student population, that come from wealthy backgrounds. When you talk about equality, that's not a box to be checked. And I can't help but remember Chief Roberts' quote from 2007, where he said the way to stop discrimination on the basis of race is to stop discriminating on the basis of race.
Exactly. I would encourage every American to go read Justice Clarence Thomas's concurrence. It is fascinating. He puts this in the context of America's sins at our founding. Of course, slavery, racial discrimination that we worked to get out of American society. He talks about the 1864 platform of the Republican Party was to abolish slavery. Republicans get in office. Republicans push forward the 13th Amendment. We get rid of slavery in this country. He calls it America's second founding. Then we get to Jim Crow and those horrific laws that were discriminatory in nature, and Brown versus Board of Education, where separate but equal is inherently unequal, and we will not discriminate on the basis of race in our schools. And then he says, but we take some steps back as a country when you get to the Grutter case, which allowed discrimination on the basis of race in schools so long as you were discriminating against individuals who were, let's say, Asian, for example. So it's fascinating. And he finally concludes by saying, yet the Constitution continues to embody a simple truth. Two discriminatory wrongs cannot make a right. The Constitution prevails. Someone like John Wang, who had a nearly perfect SAT score, 4.65 GPA, way above MIT and Harvard, doesn't get in. And he's put into a model. And because of his race in this model that he was put into, they concluded, I'll end with this, he had a 20% chance of getting accepted into Harvard as an Asian. He had a 95% chance of getting in as an African American. Not equality.
Martha.
You know, one of the things that I found interesting was Justice Sotomayor's argument that there is structural racism, essentially, in the country. And I think that's a conversation we've all been having a lot in the past year or so. About whether or not this exists in the country. And you've got, one faction saying, of course it does, and it should affect everything we do, and another side saying that it doesn't exist. And I was listening to Tim Scott earlier, and I thought about the conversation that he had with the women on The View, where they said, no, you're the exception. So they're desperately trying to make sure that that construct stays in place, right? You cannot say everyone has equal opportunity in this country, because if you do, then you're going to lose the structural racism argument in this country. So I think it's a fascinating day. And I also think it's so interesting that what prompted this was that one group started to advance because of their hard work. And then another group tries to quash them down, right? Too many Asian students getting in, not enough. So once you had those boxes, and I remember them when I applied to college, check the box that you applied to, right? Which group are you in? You created identity politics in a large way.
What's fascinating about Martha's explanation as well, Jeremy, is the fact that for those proponents of affirmative action at the time when that original case came out, they expressly said this will not unnecessarily quash others. Remember that? It said it was to equalize anyone at a natural disadvantage, but never at the negative effect for anyone else. But exactly to Martha's point, it had the real-time effect of, for boxes only, absolutely quashing a considerable group that, by the way, is a minority in this country. So for affirmative actions, again, touting that that is there for minority enrichment and minority success and equality, it was having an opposite effect, which seems to be ignored by the left.
Oh, that's exactly right. Look, I fundamentally believe, I do not believe that new discrimination today can somehow remedy discrimination of the past. It just doesn't work. And if you look at affirmative action's track record, it's actually quite abhorrent. Poor and working class Black and Hispanic families are worse off today than they were during the Civil Rights Movement. And why is that? Because policies like affirmative action benefit rich elites. That's what the policies are for. If you look at Harvard, in this particular case, 71% of the Black and Latino students at Harvard hail from the wealthiest families in America.
Wow.
And all the while, you look at the educational opportunity outcomes for poor and working class Blacks and Hispanics, and they don't even get a shot. And so, and even my own personal story, I grew up in Georgia in a middle-class family. And I remember when I got to high school, I decided that I wanted to go to the United States Military Academy at West Point. It's always been my dream. And I had two JROTC instructors who told me, look, we believe in you. You can do this, but you're going to get in on merit. You don't need any kind of affirmative action. We are going to work with you every day to achieve your goal. And literally from freshman year to senior year of high school, it was academic and physical, physically pushing me to get to those benchmarks. And so I push-ups, sit-ups, running miles after school, education. I had to make sure I got the top scoring grades. And I had those mentors that believed in me, and I was able to get in based on merit, not based on the color of my skin. And that is something that we lose with policies like affirmative action. So I'm thankful that the Supreme Court got it right today.
And a Yale Law graduate. Just throw that in there.
Thank you.
Right. Emily, I can relate as an immigrant, first one to graduate of an American university in my family. It's about merit, but here's the tricky part about this too. What gets measured does get done. And you do want to put a spotlight on education as the greatest path to equity. So I want us to support that. But here's what's fascinating with our country and the demographics of it. We are already majority minority at the elementary school level. That means it's going to be a point when that will be the mainstream of students anyway. So we should be pointing our affirmative actions towards making sure that those kids that are set to be the majority of Americans in the future, leading us as professionals, as politicians, et cetera, are not failing. And that is sadly what's happening today. Black and Hispanic kids have fallen behind, even more so after the pandemic. So how do you expect us or our communities to be ready to go into Harvard or any other school with or without affirmative action? We need to focus on results and the support systems, the coaching, the mentors like those that told you, work hard, Jeremy, you can do it. Same thing for me. Learn English, you'll get it. I still try to learn it. I'm still working on it, but you can do it. So I think we need to reimagine what equity in a fast approaching majority minority nation will look like. And it's a good challenge for universities now to rethink that.
Yeah, and that's looking at looking at the national test scores for kids, little kids, we're failing them miserably. Yes. So address the college problem, but you better address that public school problem as well. And nobody talks about it from the
What actually transpired is still unclear, but so far, here's what we know. Archer says Hunter repeatedly put his dad on speakerphone when he was out with clients. He witnessed that more than 20 times over the course of a decade. And the calls helped to sell the, quote, Biden brand to clients around the world. Now, some top Republicans are speaking out against President Biden. They say the evidence has started to pile up.
Do you think the President of the United States is compromised based on Archer's testimony?
I think so. Well, every day this bribery scandal becomes more credible. I mean, let's look at what Devin Archer testified today. He said that not only was Joe Biden on the phone over 20 times with people, including the Burisma executives, talking about whatever, even though the president denied that he never spoke to any of these people.
And of course, we know, the brand was totally Joe Biden, the guy with the power and the connections in D.C.
This is not about revenge politics. What we're hearing from what Devin Archer had stated, selling access, selling a brand. We're seeing Hunter Biden directly calling his father to, again, like you stated, sell that brand.
Sell that brand. And on the other side of the aisle, Democrats are downplaying the calls that Archer witnessed.
He did describe that there were approximately 20 occasions over the course of their nearly decade-long business relationship where, when one of them called the other, that Hunter Biden would ask his father to say hello to whomever he was at dinner. He said there were some times when it was friends and sometimes when it was potential business partners or business partners. But the witness was unequivocal and stated very clearly that they never discussed any business on that phone conversations. There were niceties and there was a hello and we talked about the weather or whatever it was, but it was never any business. How much longer are we going to go on this fishing expedition? There is no evidence connecting President Biden to anything related to Hunter Biden.
Kayleigh McEnany, but as the Wall Street Journal editorial board writes, well, it's highly unlikely that Hunter wanted to talk about the weather with his father. He knew what he was selling. And as they say, we'll see what else we learn as the House keeps looking.
Yeah, it was all hello, niceties, and the weather. Well, let's play this out. Hi, Harris. Nice to see you. It's sunny out. That took 3 seconds, not 20 phone calls for the duration of which we do not know. That is patently absurd. Goldman, as someone who is typically, good at spinning, that was a pretty bad spin. The weather, though, is a favorite of the Biden administration. You have Goldman saying it here. Remember, Karine Jean-Pierre blamed the wind for blowing Biden over on Air Force One staircase. Remember, she blamed heavy winds as the reason a border wall wouldn't work. And remember why he uses that middle staircase on Air Force One, because of extreme weather. So they love to blame the weather. You got to get a better scapegoat, guys. But what is amazing here is the liberal media. The New York Times saying it has long been known that Biden at times interacted with his son's business partners. Really, because you've spent the last year saying that that was not known, and in fact, that was a lie. New York Times goes on to say Republicans pointed to the interview as evidence that Biden had lied when he claimed he had no involvement in his son's business dealing. Fact check, New York Times. He didn't claim he had no involvement. He told Peter Doocy in September of 2019, I have never spoken to my son. But leave it to the shameless left-wing media to cover for the president. You can't do it because the American people, they've been listening since 2020.
Harris, last hour you had Congressman Fallon on. What did you learn?
Well, one of the things I learned were just where we're not looking. And he and I agreed on this. We need leaders who will hold accountable those who are closest to them so they're not compromised and thereby the rest of us compromised. So the questions that really bubbled up for Congressman Fallon and myself were, well, is this just an uncurious former vice president that he wouldn't ask his son after a call or previous to a call? Who was that on that line? And if it happened 20 times, maybe there was an opportunity for this president, then vice president, to have said, look, I need for you not to do that, but if you're going to, I need to know who's on the other line, because this could have a certain tinge, this could look a certain way, the wrong people on the other line. But instead, what Hunter told us in 2019 in ABC News was, well, my dad was just simply telling me he knew about the Ukrainian situation and him sitting on the board. He was telling me, I better know what I'm doing. So already the story had migrated, even back to 2019. But now it's that total deniability that there was any knowledge of who might have been on the speakerphone, who Hunter was doing business with. We need leaders who are going to be more curious than that, if not only for their own CYA, but to cover the rest of us. National security is important. Who knows who was on those phone calls? Well, Devon Archer knew.
Richard, so much that has been teed up. Take your pick of what you want to say.
Respond to it all, please.
Sure. I mean, look, I think perspective here matters. And I think obviously none of us were in that hearing room, so we don't know everything that was said. But there was a couple things that stood out to me right away. Number one, it was 20 calls over 10 years, right? And I think that actually matters. So if you do some back of the envelope math, that's 2 calls every year for 10 years.
While vice president.
No, but some of the time he wasn't vice president. The vice president was the former vice president. He was a private citizen, and he called his son, and his son was at dinner. And to be honest with you,
that name is always powerful. That's how he used it to get into office.
But Harris, but it's also fair to say for every member of Congress and for every senator, for everybody who was a legacy admissions, they used their parents' names to get things, and it's not their parents' fault for what they do. I mean, i.e. Jared Kushner, who used his parents' name to get into Harvard University.
Right?
So my point here is,
hop on the phone.
Yeah,
with,
but in Jared Kushner's case, they gave Harvard $2.5 million for him to get there.
Talking about Harvard versus
You've got to consider the players.
I'm not denying the players here, but what the Republican House Committee is trying to prove is that the sitting president of the United States engaged in bribery with a foreign country. At this point in time, based on we're almost at a year of them investigating this, they keep saying there's smoke, but it could be condensation or it could be a smoke machine, but they don't seem to have fire.
Why did Obama officials reportedly warn the current vice president that what he was doing was shadowy?
Haley, they warned the vice president. Kayleigh, sorry, they warned the vice president about his son's dealings. There was a Justice Department investigation that's still pending. That's not over.
Would you have done it if you were vice president and Obama officials warned you not to do it?
Yes, I would have
done it.
No, I wouldn't have done it. But let's be very clear. This is about his son, and his son, we also know, has a very checkered past. His son is currently under an investigation. He didn't mention
any of that. He didn't mention any of that in 2019 during that ABC News interview with Amy Robach.
So
he didn't mention any of that.
I want to get Cheryl in here, and let's sort of draw that out. Because I hear everything that you're saying, and I do think respectfully that what's different, though, is the players and also the stakes. So admission into Harvard because of a donation is different than potentially.
We also talk about the relationship with the Saudis, but I think.
Can we talk about China?
Yeah, just to finish my sentence real quick, that's why FARA's on the table. So it's not about whether your name on the gymnasium is on the table. That's why the pending charges you mentioned could be violation of FARA, which is such a big deal.
The only point I was trying to make here is that Kids use their parents' names all the time to get things. It doesn't mean that their parents are committing crime.
Yeah,
I never did, just to be clear, but okay.
Because my parents didn't have it.
Like, yeah, my parents didn't help me do
didn't have
anything,
it, so
to be clear. Can I bring up China here for a second?
do it.
This is what really troubled me about what we heard from Archer yesterday. It's about this this lunch that Vice President Biden, when he was vice president, had in Beijing with Jonathan Lee, the CEO of BHR. Okay, it's a private equity investment fund. Guess who owns them? The Bank of China. Guess who runs the Bank of China? The CCP and the Communist Party of China in general, same thing. But what bothers me about this is that we're now finding out reportedly that Gina Raimondo is about to head over to Beijing. This is after Blinken. This is after Kerry and Yellen. They're all going hat in hand. Now it's going to be Raimondo to the Chinese. And we've been asking on Fox Business, definitely for the last couple of years, why has President Biden been so weak against China when they are stealing IP? They're buying land where they shouldn't be. Near military bases. So those questions need to be answered. But I think that is a real. That's what bothered me yesterday, was that lunch in Beijing.
I want to get one more question to you, Richard, on this specific point that you had brought up about the president lying. So Bill McGurn writes this for the Wall Street Journal op-ed, which he essentially says the real danger for Mr. Biden in the 2024 debates is when the Republican candidate, when or if, asks him the obvious, which is, we've learned since 2020, everything you claimed about your son's business overseas, the last time you were on this debate stage, is untrue. Why should the American people believe anything you say now? If you were to advise him, how would you advise him? How does he respond to that?
Look, I think if you talk to most American people, they would say to you, everybody has a son or daughter that is potentially troubled. I think we're living in a world in which we've seen the real impact of opioids. For Hunter Biden, he is somebody who is also impacted by opioids. And I think that's how the president should answer this question. And I think
most Americans don't have children that get millions from the Chinese and the Ukrainians.
But let's be very clear. Just because your son engaged in bad behavior doesn't mean that you too are engaged in bad behavior. Over 10 years.
You have to have the intestinal fortitude. As a leader, you have to have the intestinal fortitude to look at your child who you love and say, I need to know if you have exposed me.
Of course you do.
Because if you have, then the United States potentially is
exposed. Of course you do. And I think we're not privy to those private conversations.
Accountability and integrity.
Yeah. And the American people, I believe, as one of them, wants to learn more about Joe and less about Hunter. And that will be the real issue as we continue to learn more from.
Wow, Charlie. There's so many things to talk about here. But Chuck Schumer, 2 days ago, basically had Democrats walk the plank. And then last night he sawed it off. And here we are today now with a win for Donald Trump and Democrats completely in disarray. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Oh, no. And I was trying to think about it. I think the last time I saw Democrats in this much disarray was probably in 2004 after John Kerry lost to George W. Bush. And that was even, that wasn't even as bad as this time because, of course, George W. Bush was running as an incumbent, and so he had the power of the incumbent. They are completely lost, and it's so much worse because they have lost because Donald Trump has cannibalized all of their good issues. He's taken every single good issue they have and taken it away from them, so that they're left with this insane situation where they're threatening a government shutdown. They are the party of government. They're the party of government is the answer to all your problems, and we're going to shut it down. And then, of course, as you point out, he saws the plank off and leaves Democrats holding the bag. And you have a situation where you have Senate Democrats versus House Democrats. You have leadership Democrats versus other leadership Democrats. One other thing I think is kind of interesting is as Nancy Pelosi kind of fades into the background, I swear, I know Republicans tend to not like her, but she was so gifted at keeping Democrats together.
Yeah.
And we are seeing her absence right now.
But she's also president because, Judge, she's saying that Schumer needs to go and that the Senate leadership has completely failed. I find it so interesting that you have Hakeem Jeffries, who lives down the street from Chuck Schumer in Brooklyn. That's a little awkward. Neighbors is not being the one who said who should primary him. It's AOC, also down the street.
Yeah, it's interesting that AOC, just kind of as an aside before I get into it, with the, the division between the House Dems and the Senate Dems, but AOC is doing some interesting things. I think that whether or not Hakeem Jeffries wants to admit it, I mean, they're furious with Schumer's. If you think about it, I mean, he's the one with the Corona beer, and he was at all the Doge protests and the avocados, and he was singing, and he was doing the videos, and now all of a sudden he did a U-turn. Honestly, I think it was a smart move. I don't think the Democrats realize that because they would have given Donald Trump power to decide, who gets paid, what's considered an essential job. And so Donald Trump could say, you people are not essential, so you're not going to get paid. I mean, Schumer was between a rock and a hard place, and he made the decision not to shut the government down. But we all know that the party in power is the one that suffers when the government is shut down. But I want to go to AOC. Now, AOC is doing what Gavin Newsom is doing. She said that she's going to start going into the red districts and town halls, and she's going to go out there with Bernie Sanders. And I think the time for her is now or never. I think she is making a decision that, you know what? I think that this is the time for me to get out there because Schumer is out of sync with us. And if there's anything that she has done in the last few years since she's come to Congress, she's become more thoughtful. And she's become more reasoned, and she makes it clear what it is that she's thinking. So they've got a real divide within the party, and I think that she is the one who might be able to put it all together.
So, Harold, from a strategy perspective, this was a situation where Democrats initially wanted to shut the government down, saying they could blunt President Trump's agenda. Then they realized what the judge just said about Trump actually having more power in a shutdown to say, we just need essential workers. Now everybody else who's not working, Doge can say, why are they employed by the federal government at all? So now they're in this position where they're voting for the CR, but it's actually a Biden-level spending CR. So it's not like they're really losing that much. And now you have this infighting within the party, and AOC, who is admittedly far left, is the one who's getting the credit for being the one bringing people together.
Well, good to be here. Happy Friday. I think that's one perspective that you just laid out there, Katie. And I think I get the political downfall, as the judge was saying, for Democrats. They didn't support this. And the reality is this looks a lot like the spending numbers from last year. But when you're out of ideas, it seems like my party is, you seem to kind of be out of focus. And as a result, you see these kinds of machinations. We should not forget a week ago, there was a back and forth between Republicans in the House about what this bill should look like and whether or not they could bring all of their party together. So this consternation around this bill has been bipartisan. Two, Chuck Schumer's probably going to face a primary challenge from one of the names mentioned, including the Congresswoman from Congresswoman AOC or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And she will be a formidable opponent because I think what Mr. Schumer probably didn't calculate right. No one knows what he was standing for here. If he just decided I'm going to flip, you got to have a reason. I've always said any politician can change his or her mind, and I always accept when someone comes to my side. But you're not perceived as being authentic if you don't explain why you made the change. I think there were Democrats that wanted some concessions from Republicans. Maybe they couldn't have achieved them or couldn't have won them. But this may be the worst of all worlds. Wouldn't it have been great if Chuck Schumer had said, hey, here's what we want. Here's what our plan looks like. We're calling for a vote on our budget, which we have a Lift Every American Child Act, which will promote and hire teachers who do a good job, have real enforceable, accountable academic standards in our schools, and provide every kid with a summer job and internship to help foster good work skills and understand what it means to be in the real world. Lower taxes on people earning enough. Just something that Democrats could have rallied around, even if Republicans didn't allow it to come up for a vote. So in a lot of ways, I think this may be, I think the government not closing, you said it well at the end, Judge, the party in power normally catches the blame on these kinds of things. I don't want government to shut down, but I think the country needs to be given an alternative. And unfortunately, only the alternative it seems like Mr. Schumer gave Democrats was just a flip-flop.
So, Greg, you know who else lives in New York?
Who?
Harold Ford.
I love
that he'd be a good alternative to AOC to run for Senate.
I wish he would run for something. Just to get him off this table.
He's going to run away from you.
The Dems are like, that hurts.
Yeah.
Democrats are like that kind of lonely, unpopular neighbor that's next to the neighbor throwing an amazing kegger. And that unpopular neighbor is trying to figure out, do I try to sneak in and join the fun, or do I call the cops on them and break up the party? They decided to try to sneak in because they know, you don't want to be the party that's only known for one thing, stopping people from having fun. It's like a heckler at a comedy club. The heckler is hated not just by the comedian, but by the entire crowd, especially if the comedian is good. They want you thrown out of there. Plus, think about shutting down the government. If you shut down the government, that doesn't shut down Doge, does it?
No.
It's like you could shut down the government, come back, and your Che Guevara desk calendar could be gone. So maybe you keep the government open so you can make sure that you've got an eye on Doge. Mark Kelly is kind of disappointing to me. He puts the ass in astronaut. Here's a guy who spent years guilting us over climate change, and then he sells his electric car, and what does he buy? A Chevy Tahoe. Tahoes consume gas like The View consumes pie. And it's something tells me that he had planned that he didn't just like, oh, I'm selling my EV. It was planned a long time ago. He was exploiting that sale for a virtue signal. I do this all the time. I'll give a scented candle to Kat. She go, I'm so nice that you thought of me. She doesn't know that Dana gave it to me. It's just like he just exploited it. By the way, if you sell your electric car, it doesn't hurt Musk. You already paid for it, so it doesn't matter. But virtue signaling always supersedes common sense. If Trump came out against assault, leftists would punch themselves in the face. And just lastly, not enough has been said about the violence directed at these Tesla dealerships and how they relate to the stock drop. Because why would somebody buy something that puts a target on their back? So it's mob pressure that is used to kill demand. It's social extortion. That's nothing else. And Tesla, in a way, has become like a MAGA hat that gives you an excuse to throw something at it,
Well, here's the moment. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer backed down on his threats to force a shutdown.
While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. I believe it is my job to make the best choice for the country to minimize the harms to the American people. Therefore, I will vote to keep the government open and not shut it down.
Thank you.
Thank you, witnesses, for your testimony. Again, Mr. Unger, I apologize. We can also confirm the World Program posted that the recent pause concerning in-kind food assistance to WFP has been rescinded. This allows for resumption of food purchases and deliveries
Madam Chair?
USAID.
Madam Chair, are we going member to member, or do you get to make a speech in between each witness? If you're going to offer evidence or
you're
testimony,
not
you
recognized.
should be in the clock.
You're not recognized. It's
Sure
my
am.
time.
Sure am.
Senior moments ruin it for older Democrats. A civil war is erupting in the party, pitting the old guard versus the new guard as a wave of retirements clears a path for younger Democrats. A Rutgers political scientist is blaming the former president, saying this. This is fallout from the Biden effect. It contaminated old Democrats. According to Harvard's new youth poll, approval of the Democratic Party has plummeted in half in just 5 years. And the first domino to fall, Illinois Senator Dick Durbin announcing his retirement after decades in Congress.
I think if you're honest about yourself and your reputation, you want to leave when you can still walk out the front door and not be carried out the back door.
This old versus young dynamic is playing out at the DNC with the party's chairman, Ken Martin, forced to rebuke Vice President Greg. Anyway, there's some Democrats. Watch this.
Voters should decide who our primary nominees are, not DNC leadership. I have great respect for David Hogg. I've said to him, if you want to challenge incumbents, you're more than free to do that, but just not as an officer of the DNC, because our job is to be neutral arbiters.
But the young uprising comes at a cost, and National Review is saying this. Social media is killing the Democratic Party, warning that swing state voters are not fans of the party, elevating left-wing influencers over coalition builders. But Pete Buttigieg is warning Dems to cool it with the woke finger-pointing, saying this.
There are a lot of people that I think Democrats are understood to care about, like low-income people, black and brown people are like disproportionately caught up in the economic pain when something like this happens. And so I do think my party needs to do a much better job, especially with the kind of finger wagging that you're talking about. I think we are like very prone to that. You get this sense of like moral conviction and you're so sure of it that you start to think it makes it okay to be an asshole.
That's smoke, Janie. It's just a fire.
Weatherman with the moves. Fox Weather's very own Nick Koser has made a name for himself showing off his dance moves on the popular app TikTok, and now he is facing off with some real dance pros. So you've probably seen the Fox Hit show, So You Think You Can Dance. I think we all have, right? This show is gearing up for a new season.
That's right. And Fox Weather's dancing weatherman Nick is going toe-to-toe with all the show's stars.
Oh, wow.
And he's joining us right now from Fox Weather. Nick, great to see you.
Hey,
How are you?
Oh my gosh, Danielle and Amy, I'm so honored to be here with you. I hope you guys aren't like melting in that Texas heat here lately.
well, we're in Florida, so we're
Yes, we're in
Orlando, Florida, that's right. Wait, did I say Texas heat? I meant to say Florida heat.
Yeah,
it's hot. That is true.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's really hot here. Listen, I'm a little upset because we got this like zoomed in shot of you and we can't see your feet. So I don't know what you're going to show us, but yeah, like we need like a wide shot so we can see.
There you go. All right, do a little melly there.
Move.
Okay. Go ahead,
Still
Nick.
move up top.
That's awesome. I love it.
Are you nervous about this? This is like a big deal. This is like a whole new level for you.
I know, right? You know, I probably should be nervous, but I'm okay. I'm okay. Whatever happens is going to happen. Plus, here's the deal. I'm not like a real dancer, right? I just pretend like I'm one on Instagram, so I got nothing to lose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be good. And listen, it's going to be an awesome show. Great episode tonight. It's a night with the stars. So a bunch of all-stars are coming back, and you're going to see all of your favorite faces from this season and seasons past. So it's going to be great.
It should be great. You know, here's what's so interesting about you, because I actually saw your very first kind of dance TikTok that you did, and I know you just did it, just not even thinking or expecting that it would explode the way it did. And what makes you so endearing is the fact that you really are not a dancer, right? And I think that's why so many people can relate to you. So when you talk about learning new dance moves, because now you've upped your game, Nick. I mean, I saw you from the beginning. You have, let me tell you.
It's gotten better.
You are like the man now. Did you have to learn any new dance moves right on the set? But let me tell you, because I know where you started, and you were amazing then, but this is like a whole nother level.
Yeah, well, listen, when you start at the very bottom, you can only go up, right? So that's been a key to my success, I guess. But yeah, I did have to learn some moves, and I've been just trying to have fun with it. You know, my first video went viral in 2019, and I kind of told myself, I'm gonna have fun with this and try to get as good as I can until I run out of moves or until people get sick of me. And yeah, they taught me some new moves there on So You Think You Can Dance, and my favorite one was called the swag bounce, which you'll see tonight.
Yeah,
it's a good one. It's a good one. Next time I'm in Florida, not Texas, but Florida. I'll come there and show you guys.
All right, so I mean, obviously you're really good at like sort of like this techno dance thing. Like, what about like ballet, tap? I kind of would like to see you like, venture outside of your, your usual.
You know what? I love doing that. My favorite part about this whole thing is being able to shine a light on other people, especially dancers that have dedicated their whole life to their craft. And so I love going out. I've done a Bhangra dance, before. I've got a salsa dance coming up here soon. So I absolutely love getting outside of like the hip hop genre and shedding a light on other types of dances. So yeah, I'm totally open. If you have any good tap dancers there where you guys are at in Orlando, send them my way. Yeah.
My son can help you, but I can't help you. No.
Yeah, Danielle has a son who's a very talented dancer.
Yeah, he is, but he can't move like Nick. I think Nick's got him beat on the dance. But I got to tell you, we're so happy that you came by. We're going to be watching the show tonight. I was thrilled when I saw you team up with one of my faves of all time, Chili from TLC. I was like, Nick has made it.
Oh yeah,
so fun. Nick has made it. Okay.
Chili is the best. That woman, she's immortal. She hasn't aged since the 90s.
I know. I was just thinking, I'm like, that's amazing, right?
I know.
That's how you stay young and healthy,
That's
though.
Right.
So keep doing it.
Listen,
like Cabbage Patch on out of here. Go ahead.
Guys, real quick, I want to tell everybody in Orlando, download the Fox Weather app.
Yes.
You can watch me every night from 7 to 10. You stream us 24/7. We've got your back when it comes to severe weather. When you're not watching your local Orlando station, watch Fox Weather. There you go.
We're very proud of you, Nick. We really
Texas.
are. Absolutely.
Texas is good too, but we prefer Orlando. Thanks, Nick. Love ya.
Bye, Nick.
A Milwaukee County judge just arrested by the FBI. 12 News' Hannah Hilliard is live at the federal courthouse in Milwaukee. And Hannah, the FBI director says Judge Hannah Dugan obstructed ICE officers.
Right, Mallory, and happening right now, we actually have a group of the judge's supporters gathering outside of the federal courthouse. As we know, just within the last hour, Judge Hannah Dugan did appear in front of a judge here inside of the federal courthouse. She is facing 2 federal counts, one of concealing a person from discovery and arrest, and one of obstruction of pending proceedings of the federal government. Now, this all stems back to an incident at the Milwaukee County Courthouse a week ago. FBI Director Kash Patel saying Judge Hannah Dugan misdirected ICE agents when they were there to make an arrest. According to a law enforcement source, ICE agents were waiting outside her courtroom last Friday for a man making a court appearance, but Dugan allegedly shielded that man to avoid ICE detention. Director Patel confirming the arrest in a now deleted post on X this morning. He says, quote, the FBI arrested Judge Hannah Dugan out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin on charges of obstruction after evidence of Judge Dugan obstructing an immigration arrest operation last week. We believe Judge Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse. Eduardo Flores Ruiz allowing the subject, an illegal alien, to evade arrest.
Hannah, the arrest happened this morning in the courthouse.
Yeah, and just moments ago, the U.S. Marshals did confirm that arrest happened around 8:30 this morning, again over at the Milwaukee County Courthouse. In court, Judge Dugan's defense attorney, Craig Mastantuono, said, quote, Judge Dugan wholeheartedly protests the arrest and believes it was not made in the interests of public safety.
This is a story we will continue to track throughout today. Hannah Hilliard reporting live from the federal courthouse in Milwaukee. Hannah, thank you for that update. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley is responding to the arrest. He wrote, quote, like any individual in this country, I believe she's entitled to due process. We should let the facts come to light and the legal process play out, end quote. Congresswoman Gwen Moore also releasing a statement moments ago, quote, federal law enforcement coming into a community and arresting a judge is a serious matter and would require a high legal bar. She goes on to say, quote, I am very alarmed at the increasingly lawless actions of the Trump administration and in particular ICE, who have been defying courts and acting with disregard for the Constitution, end quote. Milwaukee County Chief Judge Carl Ashley released a statement moments ago as well, saying the Judicial Code of Conduct restricts judges from commenting on pending or impending matters in any court. Judge Dugan's court calendar will be covered by another judge as needed. We will certainly continue to follow the story on air and on the 12 News app.
Judge Hannah Dugan allegedly helped that migrant avoid arrest by ICE officers at the courthouse. It's a bizarre case and it's still unfolding. Hello, I'm John Roberts in Washington. Sandra, good to see you back again.
All right. Good to be back with you as well, John. I'm Sandra Smith in New York, and this is America Reports. So today's arrest of a judge marks the second such case in the last 24 hours. A former New Mexico judge and his wife were taken into custody yesterday. Federal agents arresting them for harboring a suspected Tren de Aragua gang member in their guest house.
For more on all of this, we are honored to have in the new U.S. Attorney General, Pam Bondi. It's good to talk to you, Pam.
Good to talk to you.
So let me read a little bit from the criminal complaint here. And Judge Dugan says, despite having been advised of the administrative warrant for the arrest of Flores Ruiz, Judge Dugan then escorted Flores Ruiz and his counsel out of the courtroom through the jury door, which leads to a non-public area of the courthouse. A foot chase ensued. The agents pursued Flores Ruiz for the entire length of the courthouse and ultimately apprehended him. According to this complaint, Judge Dugan was visibly angry that ICE was there to arrest Flores Ruiz, even tried to kick the deportation agents out of the courthouse.
Yeah, and to set the stage for you and Sandra, this was truly horrific. This guy was in court being prosecuted by a state prosecutor for domestic violence battery. He had beat up two people, a guy and a girl, beat the guy, hit the guy 30 times, knocked him to the ground, choked him, beat up a woman so badly they both had to go to the hospital. And John, you know, it's so rare for victims to want to cooperate. They wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out, she goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom. You're not going to believe this. Takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave. While a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom.
Wow.
You know, Madam Attorney General, great to have you here, and thanks for coming back on America Report. So we remember these words of Tom Homan, the border czar. This was March 17th, and his message on these judges who apparently are trying to get in the way of this administration's efforts. Listen.
I'm proud to be a part of this administration. We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming.
So when you see these judges trying to obstruct your efforts to make this country safer, what is your message to them?
We are going to prosecute you, and we are prosecuting you. I found out about this the day it happened. We could not believe, actually, that a judge really did that. We looked into the facts in great depth. That's her picture up on the screen, Hannah Dugan, who is now in custody. You cannot obstruct a criminal case, and really, shame on her. It was a domestic violence case of all cases, and she's protecting a criminal defendant over victims of crime.
In fact, she just had an initial appearance in court. There's also this other case coming out of New Mexico. Judge Joel Cano and his wife were arrested for harboring a TDA member at their home. The alleged TDA member had been picked up by law enforcement, and now he and his wife were picked up and arrested. And you say that you believe, as the Attorney General, that the person that they were having living at their home was a truly potentially bad individual.
Yeah, that's the judge up on the screen now who got arrested. Yeah, his name is Ortega. He was is a known TDA member. So he comes through Eagle Pass December 2023. He's living in our country. January 2025, ICE, they get a tip. Tom Homan's done a great job. Our FBI did a great job on this case, too. They get a tip that he is living with a judge and the judge's wife. So they have him arrested first on immigration charges. A Judge Damian Martinez releases him, saying that Judge Cano has a good BS meter and wouldn't let just anyone live on his property.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the associations with this violent Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua, and this person that they harbored in their home, he was showing signs through clothing, we were told, tattoos. There was evidence through voice messages and text messages of his association to TDA. So what charges will Cano and his wife face, if any?
So Judge Cano, soon to be former Judge Cano, his charges were just unsealed. He's charged with obstruction. He admitted post Miranda. He took one of the TDA members' cell phones himself, took it, beat it with a hammer, destroyed it, and then walked the pieces to a city dumpster to dispose of it to protect him. The wife also is charged with destroying evidence. Sandra, not only that, this TDA member, and he had on a necklace that said kill, something about death. He had tattoos all over him. He also had on his cell phone pictures of two decapitated victims, decapitated, gruesome photos, and he was sending them out, and whoever he was sending them to was sending back saying, hey, you need to be careful. You shouldn't be sending these. You shouldn't be texting these photos out. Not only that, these two, the judge and his wife, gave him assault rifles that belonged to their daughter. That's what they're charged with. In the criminal report affidavit, he goes to a shooting range with these assault rifles, with a suppressor, with other known TDA members, and they're shooting. This is the last person that we want in our country, nor will we ever tolerate a judge or anyone else harboring them.
Let me, if I could, Madam Attorney General, come back to the Wisconsin case and Judge Hannah Dugan, because in allegedly letting the perpetrator and the attorney out through a non-public exit and allowed them to get out in front of the building. We had a situation where we've seen that I know Tom Homan was complaining about in Colorado, where there would be no transfer of a defendant from a jail to ICE custody on a detainer request in a way that was orderly and protected public safety. They would dump them off in a parking lot, and then ICE would have to chase them around with the DEA or whatever, or FBI, and pick them up. This ended up in a foot chase in public sight. It says here, a foot chase ensued. The agents, and this was a DEA agent and an FBI agent, pursued Flores Ruiz for the entire length of the...
Sandra, not only that, this TDA member, and he had on a necklace that said kill, something about death. He had tattoos all over him. He also had on his cell phone pictures of two decapitated victims, decapitated, gruesome photos, and he was sending them out, and whoever he was sending them to was sending back saying, hey, you need to be careful. You shouldn't be sending these. You shouldn't be texting these photos out. Not only that, these two, the judge and his wife, gave him assault rifles that belonged to their daughter. That's what they're charged with. In the criminal report affidavit, he goes to a shooting range with these assault rifles, with a suppressor, with other known TDA members, and they're shooting. This is the last person that we want in our country, nor will we ever tolerate a judge or anyone else harboring them.
Let me, if I could, Madam Attorney General, come back to the Wisconsin case and Judge Hannah Dugan, because in allegedly letting the perpetrator and the attorney out through a non-public exit and allowed them to get out in front of the building. We had a situation where we've seen that I know Tom Homan was complaining about in Colorado, where there would be no transfer of a defendant from a jail to ICE custody on a detainer request in a way that was orderly and protected public safety. They would dump them off in a parking lot, and then ICE would have to chase them around with the DEA or whatever, or FBI, and pick them up. This ended up in a foot chase in public sight. It says here, a foot chase ensued. The agents, and this was a DEA agent and an FBI agent, pursued Flores Ruiz for the entire length of the courthouse, ultimately apprehended him near the intersection of West State Street and 10th Street. So the judge apparently has created a situation here where you have a public foot chase. And we all know that, well, sometimes they can come off without incident. They can also turn into very dangerous situations.
John, that's exactly right. She put the lives of our law enforcement officers at risk. She put the lives of citizens at risk. A street chase, which is absurd that had to happen. But yes, she put a lot of people in danger. That judge did it. So did the other judge. Judge Cano is charged with. They were allegedly giving him assault rifles, AK-47s, AR-15s, with a suppressor, a known TDA member, letting him go to a shooting range to refine and perfect his shooting skills. What's happened to our judiciary is beyond me.
Yeah, so when the American public hears this and they think These were once upstanding people in their communities and their professions, and they put it all on the line for this. I mean, have you dug into their motive? Like, what inspired them to carry out these acts and harbor criminals?
They're deranged is all I can think of. I cannot believe. I think some of these judges think they are beyond and above the law, and they are not. And we're sending a very strong message today. If you are harboring a fugitive, we don't care who you are. If you are helping hide one, if you are giving a TDA member guns, anyone who is illegally in this country, we will come after you and we will prosecute you. We will find you.
If I could just finish off with this idea, very significant development that you're arresting judges now. Now, it could be that the judges have engaged in terribly bad behavior and deserve to be arrested. But you know what critics will say? They'll say, "Oh, this is a government that is expanding the powers of the Article 1 of the Constitution. Now they're arresting judges." How do you respond to that?
No one is above the law, John. No one is above the law in this country. And if you are destroying evidence, if you are obstructing justice, when you have victims sitting in a courtroom of domestic violence and you're escorting a criminal defendant out a back door, it will not be tolerated, and it is a crime in the United States of America. Doesn't matter who you are, you're going to be prosecuted.
Madam Attorney General, great to see you in the studio.
Great to see you.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank
your
you
time.
very much. Appreciate that.
Look at this. Man, is this live?
It was yesterday.
Oh, okay. We have exclusive coverage of the operation. Our cameras were rolling as AG Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel joined agents in the early morning takedown.
And David Spunt is live in Virginia, Manassas, Virginia, with all the details. Hi, David.
You were there.
Good morning to you. I was very early morning. This happened around 6 o'clock in the morning in Woodbridge, Virginia. A 24-year-old top MS-13 leader, actually the top leader on the East Coast, was taken down into custody by the FBI. This was a DOJ FBI operation together along with Virginia State Police, ICE, and other different agencies. We have some video of this operation going down. The FBI director and attorney general watched this on a monitor from off-site, but they were watching in real time in cameras that were planted in the area to see this person get taken down. As far as the name is concerned, we're not able to release the name right now until this person has their first appearance. But we're told this person is a 24-year-old male from El Salvador living here in a residential apartment complex in Woodbridge, Virginia. Got a knock on the door from SWAT teams early this morning, a little bit before 6 o'clock in the morning. He is now in custody. Here's some sound from our exclusive interview with the FBI director and attorney general.
First reaction is all of our law enforcement officers are safe. That was the number one thing. They're safe. They executed a clean, safe operation, and the bad guys in custody. And thanks to the FBI, we got one of the worst of MS-13 off the streets this morning.
We were able to be out here in force to show the American people, to be here in person, that this means a lot to her and the mission. Safety is our primary concern of these communities, and we effectuated that today.
Culture Secretary, get to the USDA in a moment here. I want to first ask you about the economy. A couple little competing opinions here, all right? Here's the White House for you. Kevin Hassett said this yesterday morning.
There are a lot of reasons to be extremely bullish about the economy going forward, but for sure this quarter there are some blips in the data. What's going to happen is the first quarter is going to squeak into the positive category, and then the second quarter is going to take off as everybody sees the reality of the tax cuts.
Okay, so you got that, and you got Charlie Gasparino writing this, saying Wall Street pukes up its own medicine. And it's call for number 2, guys. And what he talks about is deregulation. He talks about the Trump team trying to deleverage the federal government and get it out of the American economy here.
Yo quiero Taco Bell. Fritas. Bless you, Taco Bell. Let's go eat one now.
Lizard, lizard, lizard.
Godzilla's hiding, and it's up to you to find him. Just buy a medium or larger drink. If you find a Godzilla, use your decoder to reveal what you've won.
Uh-oh. I think I need a bigger box. Gorditas. Bless you.
Enchiladas. 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 Enchiladas.
Endless enchiladas, just $9.99. Beef, chicken, or cheese with rice, beans, and endless chips and salsa at On the Border. You know you want it.
More at least clearing skies, but still a chance of some patchy showers that could pick up at least some heavier rain rates at times. But as we look ahead to tomorrow and into your Thursday, we're looking long term, we will be seeing some warmer weather.
You know, this simple exercise can help you stay healthy, which keeps medical costs down.
But you got to do it every day, Vince. Or you'll get out of shape fast.
You could learn a lot from a dummy.
Up later.
No one should have to be buckled like that. Kansas law enforcement officers understand the importance of using seatbelts. That's why, if you're pulled over, day or night, and you're not wearing your seatbelt, you will be ticketed. Remember, click it or ticket. It's Kansas law.
This is your brain. This is drugs.
Today?
No. Seen it, covered it. At Farmers Insurance, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. So call 1-800-FARMERS to get a quote.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.